Buenos días a todos. Para comenzar, quiero agradecerles a todos por estar aquí
Good
presentes hoy
afternoon, everyone.
y
To
dedicarle un
begin, I
agradecimiento
want to
especial a
thank
los
you all for
directivos de
being
Mercado
here
Libre y
today and
Plaza
extend a
Logística.
special thanks to the
Es
directors of
gracias a empresarios
Mercado
como
Libre
ustedes y
and
su
Plaza
incansable esfuerzo de todos
Logistica.
los días que
It's
nuestro país
thanks to
saldrá adelante.
entrepreneurs like you and your tireless daily
Concretamente,
efforts
son
that our
sus
country
inversiones
will
las que
move
generan
forward.
riqueza y empleo, tal como el
Specifically, it's
flamante
your
centro de
investments that
almacenamiento que
generate
estamos
wealth and
celebrando juntos hoy,
employment,
que dará
such as the
lugar a
brand new
2.500
storage
puestos de
center,
trabajo
which we are
directos y otros
celebrating
miles de
together
manera
today,
indirecta.
and which will create
En junio
2,500
del año
direct
pasado,
jobs and thousands more
antes de convertirme en
indirectly.
presidente,
In June
les
of
dije que
last
yo
year,
solo no
before
podría
becoming
sacar a todos del
president,
abismo en el que se
I
nos dejó
told
la
you that
casta
I alone
política
couldn't pull
y
everyone
ustedes
out of
eran
the
piezas
abyss the
fundamentales
political
en la Argentina que se
establishment had
venía.
left us in, and that you were key
Porque un
players in the
presidente
Argentina of the
puede
future.
generar condiciones para que invertir
Because a
sea rentable y
president can create
atractivo,
conditions
pero
that
al
make
final del
investing
día es el
profitable and
emprendedor y el
attractive, but
empresario
at
quien
the end
arriesga
of the
su
day,
capital
it's the
y, en
entrepreneur
consecuencia,
and the
el que dinamiza la
businessman who
actividad
risks his
económica.
capital and, consequently,
A
who
9 meses de haber
energizes
asumido,
economic
tengo la
activity.
alegría de
9
celebrar
months
esta
after
ampliación
taking
con ustedes
office, I
y
have the
también de
joy of
destacar
celebrating
que
this
hoy hay anuncios
expansion
por
with
más
you
de
and also of
50.000 millones de
highlighting that,
dólares en
today,
inversiones para los
there are
próximos años.
announcements for more than $50 billion
Durante los
in
últimos 100
investments
años,
for the coming
Argentina fue
years.
castigado por
Over
gobiernos
the
que
last
entendieron mal la
100
relación entre el
years,
Estado y el privado.
Argentina has been punished by
Bueno, sí,
governments that
me rascan un
misunderstood the
poquito, voy a
relationship between the state and the private sector.
casi que no debería
Well, if
existir,
you
pero
scratch my
es
head
una
a
cuestión
little,
de
I'll say,
transición.
it almost shouldn't exist. But it's
Se
a matter
obstinaron
of
tanto en arbitrar
transition.
quién gana y
They
quién
were so
pierde, que
stubborn
en
in
última
deciding
instancia
who wins
destruyeron
and
la
who
economía y
loses that,
terminaron haciendo inviable
ultimately, they
cualquier tipo de
destroyed the
inversión.
economy and ended up
El
making
tema
any
es que el
kind of
único que puede
investment
generar riqueza en
unviable.
este país y en el mundo
The
entero es
issue
el
is that the
empresario,
only one who
no
can
el
generate
político.
wealth, in
El
this
político
country and
no
throughout the
sabe cómo
world,
crear
is the
riqueza ni
businessman,
tiene los
not the
incentivos adecuados
politician.
para hacerlo.
Politicians don't know
Cuando
how to
quiere
create
hacerlo, lo único que
wealth,
genera es corrupción.
nor do they have the right incentives to do so,
Para
and
poder
when they want to do so, all they
Pero
generate
para
is
que eso ocurra,
corruption.
el empresario hay que
But for
dejarlo
that to
ser,
happen,
porque
the
la libertad de cada
entrepreneur
uno
must be
engendra la
allowed to
prosperidad
be.
común. Es una
Because the
cita
liberty
velada
of each
de mi
individual
papá,
engenders the
padre mío.
common prosperity. It's a veiled quote from my
O sea,
father,
el
Adam
empresario hay
Smith.
que dejarlo
In other
producir y brindar
words,
bienes y
the
servicios de mejor
entrepreneur
calidad
must be
y
allowed to
venderlos al
produce
mejor
and
precio que
provide better
pueda.
quality
Y
goods
tiene
and
que tener la
services and
posibilidad
sell
de
them at the
ganar
best
dinero por
price
ello.
possible, and they must
Y
have
una
the
de las cosas
opportunity to make money from it.
que siempre a mí
One
me
of the things I'm
interesa
always
que quede
keen to
claro
make clear is that a
es que
successful
un
entrepreneur is
empresario
a social
exitoso es un benefactor
benefactor,
social.
because if they're making money, it
Porque
means
si
they've
está
solved
ganando
some
dinero quiere
problem
decir que
for
le arregló
people.
algún problema a la gente.
And that
Y ese
type
tipo
deserves to
merece
be
ser
praised.
remunerado. Y cuanto más
And the more
gana,
they earn, it's
es porque
because
le
they've
arregló la vida a
improved the lives
muchísimas
of many
personas.
people.
De
In
hecho, en
fact,
la
in the
reunión previa,
pre-meeting,
cuando
when one saw the
uno ve
numbers
los
the company
números
showed, I
que
truly
muestra la
wanted to thank
compañía,
Marcos and your
verdaderamente
entire team because
quiero
they are great
agradecer
social
porque
benefactors, because
Marcos y
they're
todo tu
improving the
equipo
lives
son
not
grandes
only of a lot
benefactores
of
sociales porque le están
Argentinians,
arreglando la vida no solo
but
a
of
un montón de
many people
argentinos,
across
sino
the
a un montón
continent,
de
so
personas en
thank
todo el
you.
continente. Así
What
que
I'm saying
gracias.
seems obvious, but for those who have governed us, over the past few decades, this seemed like nonsense or a dirty word. The problem is that denying this basic truth didn't come
Parece una
cheap,
obviedad lo que
because
estoy
thanks to their
diciendo,
misguided
pero para
policies,
quienes nos gobernaron a lo
we
largo de
went
las
from
últimas
being a
décadas,
rich country
esto
to
parecía un
multiplying the
disparate
number
o
of
una
poor
mala
people
palabra.
tenfold over the past
El
50
problema es que
years.
negar esta verdad básica
In
no
other
nos salió
words,
gratis,
beyond the
porque
intentions or
gracias a
the
sus políticas cerradas
protagonists,
pasamos de ser un
the
país
damage these ideas have
rico
done
a
to
multiplicar por 10
Argentines
la
is of
cantidad de
biblical
pobres en los últimos
proportions.
50 años.
To think that
O
when
sea
we
que más allá de
arrived,
las
at the
intenciones
beginning
o
of
los
the 20th
protagonistas,
century,
el
we
daño
were
que
one
estas
of the
ideas
3
nos hicieron a
richest
los
countries in the
argentinos es
world.
de proporciones bíblicas.
Today we're in the bottom half of
Pensar
the
que
ladder,
cuando
but we're going to turn it
llegamos al
around.
inicio del siglo XX éramos
Today we are here in the
uno de
offices
los
of
3 países más
Mercado
ricos del
Libre,
mundo.
which
Hoy
is an
estamos en la
example
mitad
of
de
the
la tabla para
Argentina
abajo
we desire
y
and
lo
for
vamos a
which we work
revertir.
tirelessly day and night.
Bueno,
In 20 years,
hoy estamos
they
aquí en
went
las
from being
oficinas
a
de Mercado
startup
Libre.
operating in a
Es un ejemplo
garage
de la
to
Argentina
becoming
que
the leading
deseamos y por la cual
e-commerce
trabajamos
company in Latin
incansablemente día y
America,
noche.
with a presence in 18
20 años
countries.
pasaron de ser una
A company
startup que
that,
funcionaba
since
en un garaje a
2017,
ser la
has
empresa líder
increased
de
its stock
e-commerce en
value more
Latinoamérica
than
con presencia en
100-fold in
18
the
países.
capital markets.
Una empresa que desde el
Mercado
2017
Libre,
multiplicó por más de
Marcos
100 veces
Galperin,
el valor de sus
and his
acciones en
entire
el
team
mercado
are
de
the perfect
capitales.
example of innovation
Mercado
and the
Libre,
strength we
Marcos Galperin y
Argentines
todo su equipo de
possess,
trabajo
even
son
in
el
adverse
ejemplo perfecto de
conditions.
innovación
We'll see who was hit harder, you or me. But it seems to generate resilience and success, but I wouldn't recommend it as a method. So, there is undoubtedly something unique about the Argentine spirit. How else can you explain why we are simultaneously the country in the region with the least foreign direct investment in the last 15 years, but with the highest number of unicorns per capita? Against all odds and the many complications of running a business in Argentina, this company, like many others, has managed to achieve extraordinary success and become an example for so many young people who dream of starting a business in our country. If building Mercado Libre was possible, imagine all we can achieve if we guarantee the macro conditions and reduce Argentine costs in different sectors of the economy. We can dream, why not, of 10 or 15 new global-scale companies with an Argentine passport in the not-so-distant future. But the first basic condition for this is to leave inflation behind, once and for all, and regain stability, without which economic calculation and, therefore, the correct allocation of resources, and therefore, economic growth, are impossible. Because only without inflation can we project into the future and analyze better dynamic scenarios over time. Without a notion of what the future will be like, it is impossible to invest, it is impossible to create jobs. A second condition under which we make steady progress, every day, is the battle against that many-headed monster, the Argentine cost, the extremely expensive cost of credit, outdated labor legislation, eternal bureaucracy. The mountains of taxes and absurd regulations make virtually all economic activities more expensive and make Argentine labor less competitive. We have an unwavering commitment to restoring Argentina's competitiveness, and that's why we are implementing the most ambitious and far-reaching structural reforms of recent decades, which will incentivize innovation, business growth, and, ultimately, the growth of all Argentines. Because, ultimately, the private success of companies always benefits society as a whole. I'm intensely focused on Adam Smith, I warn you. Today it was Adam Smith's turn. Let's take a moment to consider the benefits this company brought to all of Argentine society. They're going to criticize me for advertising for them, but it's just a practical example, but they're going to hit us anyway, so forget it. First of all, today we can access almost any consumer item on the market, choosing from different suppliers and with short shipping times. 15 years ago, we couldn't. Secondly, it democratized access to different payment methods for small merchants and self-employed entrepreneurs who previously only handled cash payments and didn't have the infrastructure to accept payments like larger businesses and companies could. How many businesses and entrepreneurs were better off thanks to this financial service? Countless. It's a huge number. Imagine what life would be like for Argentinians if there were more companies like this. The talent exists, and there are no regulations. Know that we are working to be a land of opportunity for entrepreneurs. To conclude, I reiterate the words I said a few days ago at the Argentine Industrial Union. Our government is an unconditional ally of the private sector. No one, more than you, generates wealth, jobs, and growth for our country. Neither the state nor politicians can do that. When the state generates wealth, it does so for politicians. When the state generates jobs, it does so for its friends. Ultimately, you are the ones who push forward, investing your capital. And when you benefit from your investment, it is because you are meeting a need. You are social benefactors because you are solving people's problems. Mercado Libre is a clear example of this. What we as a government can do, and are already doing, is remove all the obstacles and barriers that separate the Argentina you left us from the Argentina we dream of every day, a free, prosperous, and thriving country. In other words, our commitment is to make Argentina the freest country in the world. May God bless the Argentines, may the forces of heaven be with us. Long live freedom. Damn it. Thank you all very much.